all 35 final forms in One Piece, and today we'll be ranking each one. These transformations include Devil Fruit awakenings, science, unique abilities, and even some mysterious unexplained transformations that you wouldn't believe are real. For example, Orochi, the tyrannical shogun of Wano, has a really cool final form that makes him look like a giant 8-headed snake. This transformation is achieved through his mythical Zoan Devil Fruit, and despite size and strength, this form also grants Orochi 8 extra lives, 1 for each head of the snake. This means that he needs to be decapitated 8 times in order to permanently die. Although this form had immense potential, Orochi was still pretty weak and was easily defeated, making this the weakest form on the list. 1 covered, 34 more to go, and let's continue with one of the weirdest final forms in the entire show. Although Vegapunk was initially just a regular human, at some point he decided to create satellites of himself. He did this by splitting himself into 6 different bodies, all with their own personalities inspired by parts of himself. After this process, Vegapunk's brain was stored in Punk records, and pretty much acts like a library that all of his satellites can access. I guess someone becomes a cool giant snake and someone just becomes a huge brain in a tube? A far cooler transformation is Gecko Maria's final form, which he can achieve through his Kage Kage no Mi. You see, throughout the years, Maria stole shadows of many people he crossed paths with, and he mostly used them to create an army of zombie warriors. However, if enough shadows are collected, Maria can use them all at the same time and absorb them into himself in order to transform into his final form. This form is called Shadows Asgard, and once transformed, Maria pretty much becomes a huge monstrous version of himself with spiky hair and horns. His physical strength is also increased to insane levels as he was able to split Thriller Bark in half with a single attack. Due to his massive size, Maria's speed is reduced in this form, and also, if he's hit hard enough, he'll start throwing up shadows, making him slowly lose strength. Although Hody Jones wasn't that strong and got defeated relatively easily, he has a really cool final form. During the events of the Fishman Island arc, he began to take energy steroids in order to get stronger. Each pill he took doubled his strength, and he took, well, a lot of pills. He became visibly bigger, faster, and even his teeth became sharper. In his steroid form, he was able to turn water droplets into bullets and hurl them at his enemies, and was strong enough to break entire ships with his jaws. And if you liked the video so far, here's the steroid pill that you can take that will make you strong enough to absolutely destroy the subscribe button. Go ahead, try it, thanks. When we were introduced to Momonosuke for the first time, we learned that he ate an artificial fruit that was a replica of Kaido's Uo Uo no Mi. However, this can't really be considered the final form as he was only able to transform into a small child dragon. However, during the climax of the Wano arc, Shinobu managed to
Hey Meta, which one is the South Fork?
It's the one in the middle.
And this one?
This one is for oysters.
We invited passionate soccer fans to push Nissan vehicles to the limit.
However, during the climax of the Wano arc, Shinobu managed to artificially age Momonosuke using her Devil Fruit, which transformed him into a gigantic dragon just like Kaido's. In this form, Momo gained a massive increase in strength and durability, and his bite was even able to hurt Kaido. Later on, during his fight against Green Bull, Momo was able to perform Kaido's Bolo Breath attack and succeeded in damaging the Admiral. Okay, some of the transformations so far were pretty cool, but there are still 30 final forms left to cover, and some of them near the end are completely mind-blowing. Throughout the series, we learned that Chopper can transform into multiple different reindeer forms by using his Rumble Balls. 30 final forms left to cover, and some of them near the end are completely mind-blowing. Throughout the series, we learned that Chopper can transform into multiple different reindeer forms by using his Rumble Balls. Although all of the 30 final forms left to cover, and some of them near the end are completely mind-blowing. Throughout the series, we learned that Chopper can transform into multiple different reindeer forms by using his Rumble Balls. Although all of these forms are useful in certain situations, without a doubt his strongest final form is Monster Point. Initially, this transformed Chopper into a huge reindeer monster with no emotions and a thirst for chaos. However, after the time skip, Chopper learned how to control this form, which made it even more dangerous. Additionally, he's now able to stay in this form for much longer, a maximum of 30 minutes before reverting back. Although Virgo was introduced all the way back in Punk Hazard, his final form remains one of the most unique ones in the entire show, even to this day. Virgo's final form involved him coating his entire body with armament hockey, which was never seen in the series since then. In this form, he was able to stand his ground against some of the Straw Hats and even injured Sanji's leg when they clashed. Even though this may be the coolest looking form on this list, as it turned out, it wasn't that strong, as Law was still able to cut Virgo in half using his Devil Fruit. Tamago's Devil Fruit, Tamatama no Mi, pretty much turns him into an egg and allows him to regenerate into a stronger body each time he's defeated. His strongest form we've seen in the show so far is called Count Niwatori, and it pretty much makes Tamago look like an oversized white rooster with wings and a mustache. In this form, he's stated to be the true knight. Although this form's abilities were never revealed, we know he managed to survive Pedro's explosion at point-blank range with no injuries, which means his durability must be on an extremely high level. Even though Caesar's Gasu no Mi already transforms him into a ghost-like form, there's actually one thing he can do to transform even further. You see, among other things, this root allows Caesar to absorb other gases and take their properties. He showcased this during his final battle against Luffy when he fused with a chemical weapon he created which completely transformed his appearance. This form is called Shinokuni, and when transformed, Caesar becomes gigantic and the color of his body also changes to purple. Due to being infused with toxic gas, he's also much deadlier in this form, and his opponents have to be really careful not to get into contact with poison. This was shown when Luffy punched Caesar and his arms became coated with poison. Pika's Ishi no Mi allows him to merge with and manipulate stone, so you bet there are many cool transformations he can pull off with this ability. However, by far his strongest form is when he merged with the entire Dressrosa castle and became a huge stone giant. In this form, Pika is obviously incredibly strong, but most importantly, he's almost unkillable. You see, Pika can freely move his real body through the stone, meaning that it's really hard for the opponents to land a good hit on him. There are still 25 forms left, and let's continue with Compone Bege. Bege's devil fruit is called Shiro no Mi, and it pretty much turns him into a castle human. And although being a regular human castle is cool, this is not all that this fruit offers. Bege's final form is called Big Father, where he transforms himself into a giant fortress. This fortress is equipped with cannons and is able to house hundreds of people. This is pretty much a last resort technique that Bege uses to protect himself and his crew, and although it is incredibly durable, a strong enough attack from the outside can force him to deactivate it. Hawkins' final form is called Strawman's Card, and when activated, Hawkins creates a gigantic straw monster. This monster mimics Hawkins' movement and is pretty much an extension of his real body. The Straw Giant wields a variety of weapons and also possesses incredible strength, as even Zoro struggled to defend against its attacks. One downside to this form is that Straw Giant's behavior is dictated by tarot cards Hawkins draws, meaning that luck is a big component of whether this form will work properly. Brook was originally a regular human, but after dying at sea, he was reincarnated with the help of his devil fruit, Yomi no Mi. Once reincarnated, Brook's appearance completely changed to that of a skeleton. Throughout the series, Brook kept evolving and eventually learned how to use the energy from the underworld to create ice. Not only that, but he also got the ability to exit his own body and roam freely like a ghost. All of these abilities eventually earned Brook the epithet, the Soul King. However, by far the most impressive final form so far is Usopp's final form, Soga King. While in this form, Usopp becomes one of the strongest characters in the entire story. It's said that in this form, Usopp could take down all 4 emperors together without breaking a sweat, although it was never officially confirmed. Soga King is also very humble and doesn't like to show off his strength, so I'll put him in 22nd place for now, although we all know where he actually belongs. Robin ate the Hana no Mi, a devil fruit that allows her to sprout multiple body parts on any surface and even create full clones of herself. Although the basic abilities of this fruit were already pretty strong, during Robin's fight against Black Maria, she managed to bring them to a whole new level. Robin's final form is called Demonio Fleur, and when transformed, she creates a giant copy of her upper body with a pair of bat-like wings, shaded skin, fangs and horns, giving it the appearance of a devil. Although Robin didn't get any new abilities in this form, her physical strength was massively increased to the point that it allowed her to finally defeat Black Maria. Even though Cavendish was originally introduced as a gag character during the Dressrosa arc, none of us expected him to have such a terrifying transformation. Like a few other characters on this list, Cavendish's power-up consists of him transforming into his alter ego, Hakuba. Hakuba awakens when Cavendish falls asleep and grants him tremendous speed and bloodthirstiness. In this form, he's too fast for eyes to track him. Even with observation Haki, he can barely be seen. In this form, Cavendish defeated Dellinger, one of the officers of Don Quixote pirates, instantly without being seen. This is an impressive feat considering that even some of the Straw Hats had trouble defeating other officers. Throughout his entire life, Frankie has always been obsessed with building things and has even made cybernetic enhancements to his own body. Although many of these enhancements significantly increased his strength, there is one upgrade that can be considered Frankie's final form, General Frank.
I'm officially hooked on this game. Today I'm talking about FIFA Heroes, the ultimate football game. I've been able to build my own dream team and I'm climbing through the ranks, and it is so fun. And my favorite part of the game is crushing my friends through head-to-head battles. And the very best part is the special
One upgrade that can be considered Frankie's final form, General Frankie. General Frankie is a huge mecha robot that Frankie can pilot and control. The robot's body is installed with advanced and powerful artillery with destructive power that's significantly greater than Frankie's regular weapons. It's also extremely resilient to damage, shown when most of Baby 5's explosive attacks were not powerful enough to harm it, despite her claim that even a pacifista would not resist her techniques. In this form, Frankie was even strong enough to defeat Sasaki of the Beast Pirates, although his body suffered immense damage during the battle. Even in their base forms, minks are weird creatures. They're pretty much humanoid animals with human intelligence and the ability to speak. However, they have a really unique power that allows them to transform into a much stronger version of themselves called Sulong. Mink's Sulong form is clearly inspired by werewolves, as during the full moon they can transform into fully white creatures, significantly increasing their strength. Each mink during the full moon is at the peak of their physicality. They become feral with long claws, sharp teeth, and way more hair. When in this form, Mink's electro power is also greatly increased, and they're able to constantly emit electricity throughout their body and perform much stronger attacks. If you're wondering how strong this form is, just remember that Inuarashi in his Sulong form was enough to defeat Jack of the Beast Pirates, which is an impressive feat. With that, exactly half of the final forms are covered. But can you believe there's still 17 forms stronger than these? And one of those is Enel's 200 million Voltamaru form. Although Enel's Devil Fruit doesn't change his looks in any way, when he pushes its power to the absolute maximum, he can transform into a huge electric giant, a Maru. In this final form, Enel pretty much looks like a big and fat sumo wrestler with spiked hair. When transformed, all of his electrical attacks become much stronger. However, we never got to see the full extent of this power as he was quickly defeated by Luffy, who was immune to his electricity. But if it was anyone else, they would have had a really hard time dealing with this thing. Another incredible final form with huge destructive potential is Avalo Pizarro's final form. At some point, Pizarro ate the Shima Shima no Mi, a devil fruit that allows him to merge with islands. During the fight against Blackbeard pirates and Garp, we've seen Pizarro use this ability to its full extent, merging with the entire Hachinosu Island. In this